At just 4 years old, this little girl knew how to sneak into crime scenes, to observe people's expressions, and look for suspicious clues. After learning to read, she began writing news articles and publishing them. The newspaper was continuously published and even grew to have over 100 loyal followers. By this time, Hilda was 9 years old, and her dream was to become a reporter who would uncover the truth behind mysterious cases. That very night, a strange murder actually occurred. She rode her bicycle alone to the crime scene. With her keen observation skills, she discovered that the victim's room door showed signs of being pried open, and there were strange, thick, round footprints in the mud in the yard. However, the police said the victim had accidentally fallen down the stairs while changing a light bulb and died as a result of an accident. Clearly, there were signs of forced entry. So why did the police say it was an accident? Hilda wanted to sneak into the scene to investigate further, but she was discovered by the police. The girl immediately said she knew the victim. She had been with the victim that morning. However, one of the two police officers ignored her and turned away. The other simply told her to leave because her presence might destroy the evidence at the scene. Clearly, they claimed it was an accident, so how could there be any evidence? Hilda knew there was something hidden in this case, so she decided to investigate herself. The victim was the first friend she had made since arriving in town. Not long ago, Hilda's father had lost his job, forcing their family of 5 to move from New York back to their hometown. This was a remote town by the lake, so quiet that it was hard to hear any news. Yet, as soon as Hilda arrived, she noticed something unusual. The woman selling secondhand goods on the street clearly had no customers, but she always stood there. The man with the shovel seemed to be digging or burying something. The little girl jotted down everything she saw in a notebook. Matthew saw how obsessed Hilda was with this, so he patiently told her that life wasn't just about investigating news. He wanted her to learn to enjoy life. But that evening, Hilda really did discover something. In the darkness, a car parked near their house seemed to be watching them. The next morning, she told her family about her suspicions, but no one tried to understand her. Hilda's older sister, Izzy, even thought she was too nosy and ignored her at her new school. Luckily, Hilda wasn't a sensitive and weak child. Compared to adjusting to her new school, she had more important things to do. For example, going to see the second-hand shop owner named Penny. She seemed to be the only warm and kind person in town, and was also Hilda's father's high school classmate. She asked Matthew if he was all right, as he had once said that once he left, he would never return. Penny asked Hilda to give Matthew an old mountain bike. This bike seemed to evoke many memories, further piquing Hilda's curiosity about what had happened here. Why had her father left? What she didn't expect was that something had happened to Penny that night. If the case were immediately ruled an accident, the truth would be hard to uncover. Driven by a sense of mission, she was determined to report on the case. She posted an article about the case on the town's forum, pointing out that the police were trying to cover up the truth. At this point, she didn't realize that this article would cause a huge stir in town. After just one night, almost everyone had seen it. But what awaited her was criticism and ridicule. Even her supportive father couldn't hold back his anger and roared at her. He furiously asked if she couldn't be a normal child for just once. Everyone on campus treated her like a monster and avoided her. Her parents were also summoned to the principal's office to be dealt with for this disruptive child. The only person protecting Hilda's dreams and rights was her mother. Bridget, a former public defender, had been forced to become a stay-at-home mother to care for her children. She expressed sympathy for the other party, but she also knew that none of them understood her daughter, because she was not like other children. Hilda was Bridget's daughter, and Bridget was her mother. Therefore, no matter how tired or exhausted she was, Bridget would absolutely not allow anyone to stop her daughter from pursuing her dreams. The fire in her heart never died out. She was like a star in the dark night, persistently trying to pierce through the veil of bones to uncover the buried truth. She went to the police station requesting to see the case file, but because she was a child, the police only wanted to distract her, so she would leave quickly. A female officer saw her and took Hilda into the office. Hilda frankly shared that she was there because of Penny's case file. Officer Collins, initially not intending to get involved, refused. However, another officer then mocked the abilities and passions of women, causing her to change her mind and decide to cooperate in helping Hilda find the truth. Thus, Hilda actually discovered a new clue thanks to Collins' help. She remembered that Penny's shop had once had a home video camera, but this was missing from the case file. She also learned from Collins that there had been a missing person case in the town. A boy named Richie was kidnapped and murdered, but the case was never released. Ultimately, the person arrested by the police was Penny's brother. The case remained without any further leads. However, Hilda suffered intense online harassment for investigating this news story. In the comment section, people constantly messaged her, calling her trash. They even said girls should play with toys instead of going to school. Hilda was deeply hurt. However, the following day at lunchtime, when the mockery and strange looks had subsided, she went into the cafeteria. She stood on a table and read aloud the deeply hurtful comments that people had left. What does this article say? It's a terrible article. Go home, you failure. This only drew more ridicule. Hilda seemed to lose her composure. At that moment, Izzy jumped onto the table and stood shoulder to shoulder with Hilda. Although Izzy wasn't particularly supportive of Hildy, she always turned off the lights and went to bed after her sister finished writing her late-night report. Izzy always objected, but she always stood by Hilda at crucial moments. Soon after, another girl stepped forward, then a fourth, instantly silencing the entire cafeteria. Hildy, summoning her courage, loudly declared that if cyberbullying wanted her silenced, then she would stand up against the odds. Someone had once asked her if anyone cared about the truth, but if the truth didn't matter, then nothing mattered. Her inspiring words drew applause. But then, suddenly, some people attacked, throwing food at them. A brawl erupted in the cafeteria, but it ended quickly. However, it also gave Hilda an opportunity to uncover the truth. She coincidentally discovered the principal's footprints were very similar to those in Penny's yard. Just then, the principal called her into his office. While the principal went to his car to get something, she searched the area. She remembered the pendant the principal wore had a pattern identical to the book on the bookshelf, so she took the book out. Sure enough, she found a key inside. She opened the cabinet and indeed found the camera. It seemed the principal was the main suspect. At that moment, footsteps echoed outside the door. Hilda quickly threw the camera out the door. Just as she turned around, the principal entered. The principal said the same thing Penny had said, that she really looked just like her father. Hildy went home and hurriedly opened the videotape. Inside was the events of the crime that happened more than 20 years ago. 3 boys were riding their bikes along the road when suddenly a truck sped towards them, kidnapping one of the boys and terrifying the other 2. And even more horrifying was the appearance of a very familiar figure in the video, her father as a child. Hilda went to the school to find her father's graduation records and eventually discovered Principal Chris's relationship with several people. She and Richie were best friends. After Richie's disappearance, the principal was devastated. This continued until Penny's brother, Sam, was arrested and imprisoned. The videotape Penny found proved that Mrs. Penny never gave up on clearing her brother's name. Therefore, Hilda suspected that the principal, harboring resentment towards Penny and her brother, stole the videotape and committed murder. Now Hilda needed more evidence, so she secretly led her 2 friends to Penny's house to investigate. The light bulb was perfectly intact and there were no broken pieces on the floor, so the police's claim that she accidentally fell to her death while changing the light bulb was a complete lie. In the medicine cabinet, there was a large quantity of pills that seemed insufficient for a single person. Just then, someone suddenly entered. Seeing Collins, Hilda breathed a sigh of relief and opened the door to reunite with her ally. Collins's appearance interrupted Hilda's investigation, but by then, she was certain that the principal was most likely the killer. Back home, she began writing her next article. Just then, her father walked in. He knew about the videotape and told her that her investigation was wrong and that the principal hadn't killed Penny. That night, Penny herself had given the videotape to the principal. Matthew was indeed the one who had experienced the kidnapping that year and was Richie's best friend. He couldn't save Richie that year, but he had heard the killer's voice. It was definitely not Sam, Penny's brother. However, everyone wanted the murder case to be closed quickly, even if the person arrested wasn't the real killer. In court, 14-year-old Matthew persistently told the truth, but no one paid attention to him. Sam was still sent to prison, and this is why Matthew never wanted to return to his hometown again. The videotape was entrusted to the principal by Penny to give to Matthew. She believed Matthew could prove her brother's innocence. He had confessed his past and told the truth to his daughter. Although Hilda had targeted the wrong person, she wasn't discouraged. At worst, she would overturn everything and reinvestigate from scratch. Just then, an unexpected phone call caused a stir. It was Sam calling from prison. He claimed he would provide a clue, but he would only tell Hilda. Hilda resolutely went to prison, but she was refused entry by the guard. However, she still wrote to Sam, requesting a video call. During the conversation, Sam made a strange statement, saying he couldn't tell Hilda anything over the phone because someone had been eavesdropping on all his calls. At that moment, her teacher unexpectedly arrived and turned off the computer. Hilda, being intelligent, immediately understood Sam's hint and realized there was a problem with the prison guard. She recalled that the guard who had refused her visit and the guard in the video were the same person. She immediately contacted Collins to go with her to the guard's house to investigate. The name on the bottle was Penny, and the drug was a banned addictive substance. Penny had spared no expense to help her brother. The guard also took advantage of the situation to threaten her, saying that if she didn't send the drugs or money, he would ensure Sam wouldn't survive in prison. On the day of the crime, the guard suddenly had a craving and tried to steal the drugs from the victim's house, but Penny discovered him. He accidentally pushed her down the stairs stairs, leading to her death. The truth of the case was revealed. Hilda's investigative skills were witnessed by everyone. Meanwhile, Matthew discovered a secret door hidden by an enemy in the house. He went upstairs to try and open the safe to see what his father had hidden inside, but he couldn't. Then one day, he saw a folded piece of paper belonging to his father with some numbers written on it. He tried logging in and unexpectedly found all the clues and records about the case from that year. At this point, his wife told Matthew that she had watched the video and discovered that the truck in the video had no license plate. That year in court, the judge asked the two boys who had abducted Richie. Matthew refused to name names, but Frank testified. Under immense pressure from his police officer father, he accused Sam of being the culprit. He claimed he saw the truck's license plate and it belonged to Sam. As a result, Sam became the scapegoat, and Matthew became seen as someone who covered for the wrongdoer. Everyone in town misunderstood him, including his father. Because of this, he had almost no contact with his father for the past 25 years. Yet, unexpectedly, his father had trusted him completely, leaving him both happy and self-reproachful. Now this videotape has become a crucial link in reversing the case from that year. Knowing this, Hilda begins to unravel the layers of mystery to uncover the truth. Currently, her only clue is the videotape recording the entire process of Richie's arrest, so she decides to start from there. However, unexpectedly, her father takes the tape to question the police chief's son, his former friend, about why he gave false testimony in court that year. Frank destroys the tape and beats Matthew. Luckily, Hilda knows it's only a copy, and the original is with the principal. She goes to the principal hoping she can make a copy. The principal refuses, but places the key on the tape. She says she can't give it directly to Hild, but she'll give Hild 10 minutes to search. After that, Hild must leave quickly. After saying this, she makes an excuse to leave so the children can freely search for clues. With the headmaster's tacit permission, Hilda found the videotape. However, it contained images not found on the copy. Hild immediately recognized the face. The boy in the video was known as the Birdman and was also a classmate of Matthew's. This tape was recorded by the Birdman himself that year. Hild's detective team launched an investigation to find him. The Birdman was a strange figure in the eyes of his classmates and teachers. Rumors said someone had once seen him dismembering small birds, and others claimed his room contained a refrigerator full of bird carcasses. To avoid harming others and himself, he dropped out of school and was homeschooled. He was once arrested for damaging a bulldozer at a construction site, suggesting he had violent tendencies. Most importantly, the Birdman had a conflict with Richie and a violent fight ensued, but no one knew the reason. They found out the Birdman's workplace. During the amusement park's off-peak season, he worked as a security guard there. So the three of them split up to search for the Birdman. They activated the amusement park's machinery to lure him out. Hilda went through the haunted house to find him. When she came out, she found him standing at the door. After investigating, she learned that people's prejudices are truly immense. The Birdman used the bulldozer because they wanted to knock down his favorite bird-watching tree. As a child, he was often bullied, and the person who gave him that nickname was Hilda's father. From a young age, he loved birds. He installed a camera by the roadside to observe them, but unexpectedly, it recorded the kidnapping. The Birdman then gave the videotape to Sheriff Brick, hoping that Sam, innocent, could be released. However, the sheriff threatened the boy not to tell anyone, otherwise he would face criminal charges. Brick also gave $40 as a reward. This amount was the price that ruined Sam's life, and at the same time, ruined the life of the Birdman. In another development, Matthew learned that his daughter had gone to find the Birdman, so he rushed there. At this moment, the Birdman unexpectedly appeared and told Matthew that Hilda had left. But this statement was somewhat misleading. The Birdman explained that she had just left to attend a picnic. Matthew recalled how he and his friends often bullied the Birdman as children, and he felt very remorseful for it. This reunion, he sincerely apologized to the Birdman for what he had done in the past, because he knew that the Birdman did not deserve to be treated that way. This belated apology deeply moved the Birdman. At the same time, Hilda went alone to the sheriff's election convention. Everyone thought he was a good sheriff, except Hild. Hild stood before the microphone and asked where the video recording of Ricky's abduction was. The police chief said it didn't exist. However, Hild insisted it did, claiming she had a copy and that it would prove the chief's son's testimony was false. The police chief tried to manipulate public opinion, leading them to believe that children only speak nonsense. At this point, a voice spoke up, saying that the girl had the right to ask questions like any adult, and that the person who came was indeed the perpetrator. Because this was a question and answer session, they were obligated to answer all questions from the public. Hilda had the right to ask. Hilda immediately asked the police chief why he didn't use the video as evidence. The public immediately became curious to know the truth and whether the police chief had coerced his son into giving false testimony. Unable to answer the girl's question, the police immediately intervened, point, ordering both of them to leave the room. Matthew was so angry and indignant that even as the police dragged him away, he kept cursing. Hilda, equally angry, left with a single sentence before departing. That evening, Matthew told Hild to do the right thing, because this moment would affect her entire life. So Hild decided to post the contents of the videotape online. However, at that very moment, an accident occurred. The mountain bike in the yard burst into flames, further strengthening Matthew and Hild's resolve to see it through. This time, Matthew had to bravely face everything instead of running away. But since there were 3 children at home, he was forced to teach them how to use weapons for self-defense. Hild's mother thoroughly researched Sam's case. Although she was now a housewife, she was once a professional lawyer, so she decided to defend Sam. This decision stemmed from both her compassion for the innocent Sam and her desire for her husband Matthew to be truly freed through legal representation. The prison granted Sam 48 hours of leave to attend his sister's funeral on the condition that he drop all allegations of abuse. After careful consideration, Sam signed the agreement because Penny was his biological sister. The new evidence Hilda released spread rapidly through town. Their family's troubles were only just beginning. Izzy was ostracized by her classmates at school. They said her family was full of crazy people. However, she was not afraid and instead confronted them. They said her whole family was useless, but she immediately retorted with sharp words. The mayor went to the school to see Hilda. He had seen the entire process of his son's abduction, and this brought back painful memories from 30 years ago. He hoped Hilda would delete the video, but she refused. The little girl said she was truly sorry for what he had gone through, but perhaps they both shared the same desire, to bring the person who harmed Richie to justice. He asked her if she didn't think Sam was responsible. Hilda immediately confirmed it. The mayor thought talking to a child who was too young to understand was crazy. The headmistress agreed with him, but she was used to it now. Hilda hoped the mayor could order a reinvestigation of the case so that the person who murdered Richie wouldn't get away with it. However, the mayor said it was over and indirectly refused to bring the truth to light. In another development, Frank proactively sought out Matthew. Matthew thought Frank had destroyed his mountain bike, but he didn't realize Frank's purpose in coming this time was to investigate. Frank unexpectedly took the initiative to reconcile with Matthew because the day before, after watching the video, he remembered how his father had gradually manipulated him into reporting Sam. When he confronted his father about the situation, his father insisted that the video was fake and that Sam was the culprit. However, this incident aroused suspicion in Frank's mind, so he sought out Matthew. The 3 of them had been best friends and often secretly drank in Sam's truck, so they were also close. Sam's father had done something reckless on the plane due to mental health issues. Sam's mother was also mentally unstable. Because of this, the whole family was accused by the townspeople, who hastily linked Sam to kidnapping. Frank's testimony further solidified Sam's criminal status. Just then, they discovered bloodstains on the ground. Following the bloodstains, they finally discovered that the arsonist was Matthew's father. The mountain bike was a gift from him to Richie. At that time, the mayor always imposed his will on Richie, so the boy couldn't even decide the color of the bike himself. The mayor said that if Richie didn't accept the color he chose, he wouldn't get the gift at all. Matthew's father felt sorry for Richie, so he gave him the mountain bike. After Richie's death, he always believed the car was a curse, which is why he burned it. Hilda continued searching for new clues. The second crucial piece of evidence was the truck that appeared in the video. If they found Sam's car, they could prove that this wasn't related to Sam, so they went to the junkyard. After a thorough search, they indeed found Sam's car. Hilda closed her eyes, trying to remember, and realized the gas cap positions of the 2 cars were incorrect. Therefore, the car in the video was definitely not Sam's. Sam didn't catch Richie. Unexpectedly, the police chief appeared, and his purpose in coming was to destroy the evidence. He crushed the truck, just as Sam had been unjustly imprisoned, plunging everything into despair. Hilda angrily stepped out, glaring at the police chief and warning him that this wasn't over yet. Her mother quickly arrived at the police station to pick Hilda up. The moment she saw her mother, the little girl finally burst into tears. She had lost the only evidence proving Sam's innocence. This made her incredibly sad, but when she got home, her father brought about a turning point. The police chief's daughter had personally delivered the videotape to her mother. Her mother hadn't publicly revealed her father's secret of sending an innocent person to prison. Only after her death from cancer did she give the tape to Penny. Despite the new evidence, the police chief still stubbornly denied it. Because he had destroyed Sam's car, they had absolutely no proof. Her colleagues angrily declared they would run against him for the police chief election. Meanwhile, Hilda and her father were meticulously reorganizing Richie's case. She found a clue in her grandfather's notebook about a man with a sinner tattoo. She asked many people, but no one knew who this person was, so she had to start again with the mayor. But she called several times and no one answered. Matthew suggested approaching the mayor by mentioning his interests, so they brought ice cream to his house. They claimed they had a friend working at the ice cream shop and were bringing it to him on their way. Despite their sincerity, he was unwilling to talk. Although initially ineffective, luckily the mayor's daughter was quite open. Together, the three of them persuaded him to become their ally. They wanted him to believe that they would never give up until they found the real culprit. They wouldn't give up and never had. In doing so, they searched Richie's old room and found a recording from a garbage hotline among old cassette tapes. Most of the content was useless, but Hilda heard a recording of someone claiming to be a psychic named Fernando. In it, he was convinced Sam was innocent. The two then sought out this person. He claimed he could connect with Richie's spirit by using the boy's old clothes and even pretended to perform a seance. Fernando was actually a con artist, but the jacket Richie wore before he died was a crucial clue. Hilda seized the opportunity to snatch the jacket. Just as Matthew seemed to see Richie, the boy, still in his childhood form, smiled and fell away. The next step was DNA testing using the jacket. Meanwhile, Frank was trying to atone for his mistake of sending Sam to prison. During Sam's remaining leave, he took Sam to the places Richie had been on the night of the kidnapping. Frank wanted to find an alibi for Sam, or at least understand what Sam had experienced that night. That day, Richie sought Sam out to watch the movie Back to the Future together. Seeing Richie's sadness and loneliness, Frank agreed, but Richie didn't show up at the appointed time. He went alone to the lake and used his homemade time machine to try and return to the time before his father's death. At that time, Sam was still a child and high on drugs, so he drove very fast, wanting to go back in time to see his father, but nothing happened. He was extremely sad and didn't pay attention to the cars around him. He went home, and not long after, the police knocked on his door and told him to join the search for Richie. That's the whole story of that day. Just then, the police arrived and told Frank that no matter what he found, Sam would never get out of prison. He was certain Sam was a murderer and possibly a pedophile, so Frank should do his duty. He was a police officer who had deceived the whole town, but no one had any evidence. He wanted Frank to get the monster back to prison before it could harm the next child. When Frank returned home, he discovered Sam had managed to escape. Almost at the same time, Hilda had mysteriously disappeared. It turned out the school had just held a dance. Hilda accidentally saw Izzy with a group of people smoking marijuana. Fearing her sister would be corrupted, she intervened. Izzy's articles had already caused resentment among others. Seeing Hilda being dragged around, Izzy didn't hesitate to fight with the other group. After the two ran outside, Izzy's pent-up anger exploded. Regardless of Hilda's current admiration, Izzy bluntly stated that she hated her sister. Izzy had tried to fit in with school life, but Hilda's relentless articles had isolated her. Therefore, Izzy truly wished Hilda would disappear. Unexpectedly, Hilda did disappear. They searched the school and home, but couldn't find any trace of Hilda. Matthew and his wife decided to split up to search for their daughter. In the mist, Matthew seemed to see Richie's figure. The boy led Matthew to find his daughter's belongings, the notebook Hilda always carried with her. This caused Matthew to panic. Hilda's mother went to the police headquarters to search, but to no avail. It was then that Izzy recounted what had happened. Her mother didn't blame her, because the fact that her daughter could stand up to protect her younger sister was enough to make her proud. The family was extremely worried about Hilda's whereabouts, but something even more terrifying happened. Her mother received a call from Frank saying that the criminal Sam had also escaped at the same time. Frank didn't ask for police assistance because he worried that reporting it would lead to Sam being shot by the police and also drag Hilda into the shootout. Therefore, some decided to search on their own. Matthew insisted on calling for police reinforcements. Although he knew Sam wasn't the real culprit, he didn't want to risk his daughter's life. Frank wanted Matthew to give them an hour, and they would definitely find Hilda. Matthew recalled the terrifying experience 31 years ago when they searched for Richie without success. So, while no one was paying attention, Matthew called his best friend, an FBI agent, for help. He told him that his daughter had been missing for 2 hours and was likely with the killer. In reality, Hilda was with Sam. Although Sam urgently wanted her to come home, Hilda wanted to find clues from him and refused to leave. She even helped him escape Frank's police car and took him to her family's shed. She tried to unlock his handcuffs, but her strength was limited. Just then, Hilda's grandfather walked in, creating a tense atmosphere between them. Fortunately, the grandfather, somewhat confused and unaware of the situation, unlocked Sam's shackles. During the process, he asked Sam if she had seen the man with the word sinner tattooed on his arm the night Richie disappeared. He had always believed Richie's disappearance was caused by that man. He was very happy to see Sam. Seeing Sam wearing thin clothes, he even found warmer clothes for her to wear. Not wanting to worry her family, Hilda asked her grandfather to tell Izzy that she was safe before leaving. On the way, Sam told Hilda that he had seen bruises on Richie's arms and body. Although not certain, he believed Richie's family had harmed him. Sheriff Brick received a call from the prison informing him that Sam hadn't hadn't returned, so he launched a manhunt for the escaped convict. The convict sought out Frank and temporarily suspended him from his duties. Meanwhile, the FBI called Matthew to inform him they had tracked Hilda's movements and discovered it was an abandoned old airport. Sam had been on the run all along to get there. He used to have a happy family. His father often took him on airplane rides to watch the sunrise. It was only after his father's reckless act on the plane many years ago that his family completely fell apart. Sam never believed his father did it intentionally, always thinking there was a problem with the plane and that the company was covering up the truth. What Sam wanted most during his 30 years in prison was to relive his memories with his father. He did this with the determination to die. To ensure Hilda's safety, he didn't let her in because he didn't want her to be harmed during his arrest. Sure enough, the moment the police chief saw Sam, he ordered his subordinates to point their guns at him. At that moment, Frank stepped in front of the gun. Immediately afterward, Collins ran to Sam and urged him to get off the plane. Thanks to this, tragedy was averted. Hilda was taken home by her parents. Izzy finally felt relieved when she saw Hilda. Sam was about to be transferred to a maximum security prison. If Frank could testify in court, Sam wouldn't be charged with escaping. At the same time, Frank's suspension hearing was taking place. Collins presented the events of that day first. She said that Police Chief Brick knew Frank had taken Sam to Penny's house, and the reason Sam escaped was because the police chief said he would never release him. If this testimony were accepted, it would be extremely detrimental to the police chief. Next came Frank. Unexpectedly, he chose to lie on the witness stand, just as he had 30 years earlier. The day before, his father had approached him, demanding that he change his testimony at the hearing, claiming that Sam had escaped while using the restroom on the way back to prison. In return, his father would withdraw from the police chief race that Frank was running for. Under pressure and family pressure, Frank ultimately chose to lie again, against his conscience. Therefore, when questioned again, he denied taking Sam to Penny's house. While this saved Frank's position at the police department, it jeopardized Collins' career. Hildy stood by and said she had been with Sam all night. She said she had overheard the police chief's conversation that they would never release Sam. However, this couldn't be considered testimony because nobody even knew who Hilde was. After the hearing, Collins decided to resign from her police job, but Chief Brick threatened her, preventing her from leaving. He said he would blacklist Collins, leaving her confined to a desk job at the police station for the rest of her life, unable to find work in any other law enforcement agency. This injustice enraged Hild. Matthew recalled Hild mentioning Richie's bruised arm, so he secretly went to the hospital to look for Richie's family medical records. Strangely, everyone in the family had Richie's name on their medical records. He questioned the mayor about the reason. The mayor's stuttering made Matthew seem to understand something. He didn't want to reopen the investigation because he didn't want to reveal that his son had been abused. Meanwhile, Hild didn't give up. She persevered in pursuing truth and justice. If the sheriff is corrupt and incompetent, then replace him with another one. The girl wanted Collins to run for sheriff. She led a team around, collecting signatures. It wasn't an easy task. They went to her grandfather's senior citizens college, using all their might, but only managed to get 50 signatures. It was almost 6 p.m., so they went to crowded places to look for opportunities. Finally, they collected enough signatures to get Collins to run for sheriff, but Brick didn't care. Hildy couldn't help but tease Frank the moment she saw them. Frank thought he was just doing his job. The sheriff thought Collins was just a troublemaker and wouldn't pose any threat. When the whole town knew about it in court, Frank would still win. Finally, that day, the FBI contacted Matthew because they had the DNA test results for the jacket. That same day, Hilda went to see Karen, who was working at the library. She was the mother of the kind and gentle headmaster. Hilda asked her mother for help finding some books about elections, but just then the FBI walked in. They arrested Karen in front of everyone because the test results showed the bloodstains on the jacket belonged to Karen. The principal never dreamed her mother was hiding another identity. Her real name was Marguerite. That year, she had been arrested for car theft in Portland. After being released from prison, she changed her name and came to this town. But because she violated probation rules, she had to change her appearance and start a new life. Marguerite confessed that on the night Richie disappeared, she had cut herself in the kitchen. Richie's jacket was the first thing she found, so her blood got on it when she cut it. She swore she didn't kill Richie. Hilda was in class and was eager to know what had happened, so, before school was over, she asked permission from her teacher and rushed out of the classroom. Seeing the principal's distressed face, Hilda wanted to comfort her, but her father stopped her. Driven by a desire to uncover the truth, the family embarks on an investigation. Matthew recalls that there were no female voices in the abduction that night. The video shows that after the abductor got into the car, the vehicle sped away immediately. This means there were at least 2 people in the car, and it's highly likely Marguerite was the driver of the truck. So what was her motive for for abducting Richie. Wanting to learn more about Marguerite, Matthew and Hilde went to her old address in Portland. Marguerite was the aunt of the woman in the house. Although she never met Jesse's biological father, the house was a gift from her aunt, and she was always grateful. Jesse and Marguerite were very close as children, and there were still many photos in the house. It was from these photos that Hilde discovered the tattoo of the word sinner. Matthew examined the tattoo closely, but it was written in blue. Hilde suddenly had the idea of reversing the photo. As expected, the man with the sinner tattoo was Marguerite's younger brother, Jesse. Matthew investigates and discovers Jesse has a long criminal record. The case gradually takes shape. Unexpectedly, when the two return home, Hilde's grandfather faints. Fortunately, he is taken to the hospital in time and his life is saved. Before leaving, Hilde, understanding the situation, tells her father that she will write this article for both of them. She will try to give her father time to take care of her grandfather. Thus, Marguerite's true identity and Jesse's criminal past are published online. Although Hilde still faces discrimination at school, Izzy stands firmly by her sister. The photo published in the article also brings back memories for a teacher named Sipo. On the day Richie was kidnapped, he was driving on the highway when a truck suddenly came from the opposite direction, forcing him to swerve off the road. Since then, he has been confined to a wheelchair. Sipo's statement could prove that Jesse was in town on the day Richie was kidnapped. This also leads to a new development in the case. As a friend, Matthew approached the principal first, telling her about the situation, hoping she could persuade his mother to confess the truth. The principal truly wished Matthew hadn't returned. Ultimately, she still went to find her mother. She recalled that year when her mother had found Richie's coat, as if she knew it was there. If her mother had picked it up and handed it over to the police, it wouldn't have aroused suspicion. Her mother suggested they leave and start over, but the principal refused. So, early the next morning, Margaret packed her belongings, gave them to her daughter, and went to the police station to report everything. Hilde wanted to write this article, so she told Matthew to go to the police station to inquire about the statement. But Officer Frankie refused Matthew. Fortunately, Sam's mother's lawyer had the right to obtain a copy of the statement. She told Hilde that they couldn't publish the news yet, as doing so would be detrimental to the retrial of Sam's old case. Later, the two went to Hilde's headquarters and read together. This was the secret base of Matthew and his two friends when they were children. Matthew was 11 years old then, and Hilde was only 9. Hilde said that her teacher had told her she was mature for her age, but perhaps was implying that she was troublesome. Hilde realized that Richie's accident was the impetus for Matthew to become a reporter, and possibly the impetus for her own becoming a reporter as well. The case then gradually became clearer. That day, Jesse came to town and arranged to meet at the amusement park. He had just been released from prison and had planned to kidnap Richie. He said someone in Richie's family had hired him to abduct Richie and take him away from his abusive father. He needed a driver and a car. At first, Margaret refused, but Jesse threatened her, saying that if she didn't help, he would find another violent friend. Wanting to protect Richie, Margaret agreed. Richie resisted in the car and stabbed Jesse with a knife from his pocket. Margaret cut her hand when she pulled the knife out. Richie jumped out of the car and fainted. The two had to carry him back into the car. Unexpectedly, at that moment, Jesse sped away, leaving Margaret there. Not long after, Jesse called to say Richie was dead. Immediately afterward, she heard the sound of a car crash. That was the whole sequence of events that day. Seeing the police chief arrest an innocent Sam filled her with immense guilt. The police chief advised her that even if Richie hadn't been kidnapped by Sam, Sam would have ended up in prison sooner or later. And so she watched this young man unjustly serve 31 years in prison. The news never reported on Jesse's car accident, as if it never happened. Hilde realized that the public call log from the night of the crime was a crucial clue. Hilde called Collins and asked her to check the call log from the night Richie was kidnapped. The girl also got the exact date and time from Margaret. That's how they found a public telephone booth on 8th Street. Matthew and Hilde searched the area and discovered a tree entangled in metal bars. Further through the woods, they found a lake. Hilde believed the lake might contain crucial evidence, but Sheriff Brick refused to retrieve it. Frank tried to dissuade Brick, but he insisted they were making things up. Hilde accused him of being afraid because what they were saying was true, and if they were right, then he was wrong. She believed the truth was more important than anything else. Hilde knew that appointing Collins as sheriff was the only way to get the lake retrieved. So that night, she published an article about a true sheriff who should pursue justice. She wrote down the whole story in the article. An innocent man lost his freedom, yet the entire town turned a blind eye. A family rebuilt a broken home on a foundation of mistakes. Richie's disappearance split the town in two. Some were determined to uncover the truth, while others were willing to accept lies to sleep soundly at night. However, closing their eyes meant not only missing what they didn't want to see, but everything. The children in this town trusted the the adults to do the right thing. When people opened their eyes, they saw only two choices: the truth or more lies. The little girl wanted to advise everyone to open their eyes and do the right thing. Luckily, Collins actually became the sheriff. She approached Brick and told her that the first thing she did upon taking office was to salvage the lake. So she asked him to reconsider whether he should do a good deed in his final term. Perhaps doing so could save his pension and reputation. Finally, Brick agreed to retrieve the missing car from the lake. As the car gradually surfaced, the truth, hidden for 31 years, was fully revealed. This was the result of Hild's persistent investigation and a symbol that the truth would not remain buried forever, no matter how many years passed. The police found Jesse's body in the truck, but strangely, there were no human remains in the back. Based on the scene, Hield suspected violence and a hit and run. Richie woke up in the back of the truck and discovered it had fallen into the lake. He tried to open the door, but failed. However, the shattered glass suggested that Richie might have escaped. What if Richie was still alive? But if Richie was still alive, where was he? This is the next article by Hild and Matthew. That concludes today's episode. Thank you for watching. If you enjoyed it, please give us a like and subscribe to our channel to support us. Goodbye, and see you again.